The first segment of the Hot 7 Nightly News is brought to you by Flow.
In the headlines, a special committee appointed for St. Jude's. Government warns against price gouging on sugar, and the country steps up efforts to reduce the rate of suicide.
This is the Hot 7 Nightly News with Lovelace and Amy Joseph.
The Parliament of St. Lucia is giving offenders a second chance with the approval of the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amended Bill. More in this report.
Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Economic Development and the Youth Economy, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, at Tuesday's sitting of the House of Assembly, presented the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Amendment Bill for debate. The Prime Minister explained that the amendment serves as a response to the calls of many individuals, especially the youth who have been adversely affected by their criminal records.
So what this bill sought to do, Mr. Speaker, is the bill seeks to amend the Criminal Records Rehabilitation of Offenders Act and makes provision for certain criminal convictions of offenders to become spent and to be expunged from the records. Mr. Speaker, as I said before, criminal records have been used in society and they prevent persons from holding a job, sometimes obtaining a license or even obtaining a visa. Having a criminal record expunged allows a person to put the past behind and get a second chance in life, as the stigma attached to a criminal record is removed, leaving the person with a clean court record. This act makes this new life possible.
The Prime Minister explained the amendments, providing a breakdown of the process.
By establishing a Rehabilitation of Offenders Board that has the statutory power of determining whether conviction can be expunged or not. In order for a conviction to be expunged, the conviction must be spent and must carry a term of imprisonment not exceeding 3 years or be a non-custodial sentence. As a result, a convicted person must satisfy the criteria set out in the Act, having regard to the relevant rehabilitation period under the Act. Therefore, on the Rehabilitation of Offenders Board being satisfied, the conviction will be spent and the convicted person will be deemed rehabilitated for the purposes of this Act. It is only at this stage that a person will make an application to the board for the expungement of a criminal conviction from the records. In relation to a person currently serving a sentence, Mr. Speaker, the Act provides that a person must have served or otherwise undergone or complied with any sentence imposed on him or her in respect of that conviction in order to be deemed a rehabilitated person in respect of that offense. This means that a person currently serving a sentence must complete their sentence in order to qualify for expungement. However, the Act also recognizes that the Governor General can, on the advice of the Committee on the Prerogative of Mercy, grant a pardon to any person convicted of an offense. It is fundamental to note that a pardon only takes place where a person is subject to a sentence, and a pardon cannot in effect expunge a conviction from the criminal records of that person. Therefore, as it relates to a person serving a sentence, a pardon must be granted before the sentence can be expunged, Mr. Speaker.
That was Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Economic Development and the Youth Economy, Honorable Philip J. Pierre, speaking there at the sitting of the House of Assembly on Tuesday, 31st August 2021. From the Government Information Service, I am Janelle Norville.
The Deputy Director of Consumer Affairs, Benedict Joseph, has addressed the issue of sugar being sold by some retailers above the legislated price. He further reminded local businesses of the sanctions to be imposed for any infringement.
As indicated in a press statement on September 3, 2021, the Ministry of Commerce, Manufacturing, Business Development, Cooperatives and Consumer Affairs reminds the public that due to the global shipping delays brought on by the coronavirus pandemic, supplies of brown and refined sugar into the island have been adversely affected. As such, the current supplies are being managed to allow for even distribution to all consumers. the ministry has received several reports of some businesses selling a pound of brown sugar above the legislated price. The ministry takes this opportunity to remind businesses that the retail price of 1 pound of brown sugar is $1 and the retail price of 1 pound of refined sugar is $1.10. The ministry wishes to inform the general public that sugar is a price control item and should never be sold above the legislated price. In fact, Section 37, subsection 1 of the Distribution and Price of Goods Act, Cap 1309, clearly states that anyone who sells above the legislated price commits an offense and is liable on summary conviction to a fine not exceeding $5,000 or to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 1 year or both. Consumers are encouraged to be extremely vigilant and report to the Consumer Affairs Department any business which is engaged in selling above the legislated price. The Consumer Affairs Department can be contacted at telephone numbers 468-4224 or 468-4231. Our operating hours are between 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The email address is consumeraffairs.commerce@govt.lc. The ministry is appealing to retailers to continue to manage the sale of sugar to discourage panic buying.
St. Lucia joins the rest of the world in making a commitment and taking action to prevent suicides. Several government and private sector agencies are combining their efforts to tackle the scourge. Fernell Neptune tells us more.
Mental health advocates, organizations, suicide survivors, and other individuals joined together in observing World Suicide Prevention Day on September 10th. World Suicide Prevention Day is commemorated with the theme of creating awareness about the ways in which suicide can be prevented. Community mental health nurse Jana Felix Edward highlighted the need to recognize warning signs of suicide and knowing how to respond to the situation.
Listen empathetically. Don't be judgmental about their situation. Don't tell them what you think they should do or what you would do in a situation like that. Just be empathetic towards them. It is important to hear them out. Don't leave them alone when they're telling you that they are suicidal, they're thinking about completing suicide, that they're feeling hopeless, that they're feeling helpless, that they're feeling like the world would be a better place without them. Don't leave them alone. Always stay with them, sit with them. You can either ask them to call the 203 helpline or you can call the 203 helpline yourself.
Depression survivor George Senkwa, better known as Platinum George, spoke about his experience living with depression and finding hope.
Depression hits when you're alone, when you're by yourself. That is when everything starts kicking in. When you're among people, it's just like a cover. Just like I tell people, an entertainer is basically like you are. It's a mask that you put on to go on stage. But apart from that, when you remove that mask, you're like everybody else. You have your bills, you have stuff to take care of. For me, how I defeated depression, I put myself in church. I believe it is okay to speak to somebody. As a man, it's okay to cry. Okay, it's okay to express yourself. Because what happens, the more you hold this pain inside, you destroy yourself, you destroy your own family. You always have a rage that every time somebody approaches you, instead of you take it calm, you react with emotions, you do not think. Then this depression affects your child, affects your job.
Nurse Jana Felix Edward also called for the participation of St. Lucians in the Light a Candle activity.
It's where they would light a candle at 8 p.m. at night, and they would put the candle near a window. We're encouraging them to take videos, take photos, and post it on social media in an effort to recognize Suicide Awareness Month, to remember somebody who has completed suicide, and to show support for persons who have survived an attempt, family members who are still going through the loss of an attempt, and anybody else who may be considering suicide.
This year, World Suicide Prevention Day is commemorated under the theme, Take a Minute, Change Your Life. Reporting from the Communications Unit of the Ministry of Health, Wellness and Elderly Affairs, I am Fennel Neptune.
The Cabinet of Ministers has appointed a 5-member committee to review the St. Jude Hospital reconstruction project. The committee has been tasked to review the option for completion and commissioning of the St. Jude Hospital and to report its findings at the end of 4 weeks. The committee is chaired by Mark Hennicott, a technical professional with 25 years of experience in building design and construction. Other members include Francis Chitoli, Engineering, John Peters, Engineering, Cosmos Andrew, Engineering, and Moses Medrick, Contracting. You're watching the Hot 7 Nightly News. Still to come, St. Lucia gets ready to introduce Creole in schools. Taiwan donates much-needed medical equipment, and 2 Caribbean leaders on high alert for mass COVID deaths.
The first segment of the Hot 7 Nightly News was brought to you by Flow.